This week, we will continue to get to know more of the kings that reigned in both Israel and Judah. Each time they introduce a new individual, you hope that this king would turn to the Lord and follow him and not idols. However, that rarely happened. It takes some concentration to read and follow all of these leaders, but don't rush through them. There is no way we will remember all of them, but try to understand the timing and the different territories. Go back and check the post of the timeline at the very beginning of 2 Kings, the 200th week, on my blog post. It will be an aid for you. The reading of chapter 10 fulfills the ending of Ahab's family line. In fact, Jehu went far beyond the Lord's command with his bloodbath. He did not obey the Lord with all of his heart. He had become God's instrument for carrying out justice, but he had not become God's servant. As a result, he gave only lip service to God while permitting the worship of the golden calves that he did not destroy. What is the condition of your heart? We can be very active in our own work for God and still not give the heartfelt obedience that he desires. The story in chapter 11 is a continuation from where Ahaziah, Athaliah's son, had been killed by Jehu. Athaliah's attempt to kill all of Ahaziah's sons was futile because God had promised that the Messiah would be born through David's descendants. Joash was hidden when he was an infant in the temple and became king at age 7. Kind of reminds me of the story of Moses. He was a king who didn't go far enough in removing sin from the nation, but he did much that was good and right. The temple needed repair, as we find out in chapter 12, because it had been damaged and neglected by previous evil leaders. Thanks to Joash's fundraising program, it could be restored. However, in the end, Joash turned away from God and ended up being killed by his officials because his kingdom was way out of control. Jehoash assumed the throne of Israel in 798 BC, which you will read about in chapter 13. At that time, the king of Judah, Joash, who we just read about, was nearing the end of his reign. In Hebrew, Jehoash and Joash were two forms of the same name. Thus, two kings named with the same name, one in the south and one in the north, reigned at approximately the same time. While Joash of Judah began as a good king, Jehoash of Israel was evil. I just wanted to share an interesting fact. Well, our final chapter introduces King Amaziah, who made a fine beginning by following a good example, establishing justice in the land, and obeying the word of God. But after he won a great victory over Edom, he became proud, and that led to his defeat. It was during this time period of history that many prophets began collecting their prophecies and writing them under God's direction. They preached about the worldwide significance of God's work as they looked forward to the future spiritual kingdom. Have you had your fill of kings and the history that goes along with them? You can't stop now. You'll have to join us again next week for another 5 chapters of 2 Kings. More kings, more history. And don't forget, Biblical Shakers will make reading the Bible way more enjoyable for you. And I pray that the Lord will put a hunger on your heart.